Hi kids, this is Grandma Terry. I'm going to read to you Star Wars: A New Hope, Escape from Darth Vader, and this is from the book 5-Minute Star Wars Stories. Okay, so here's what the first page looks like. And it's this one. It was a time of war. Rebel spies fought the sinister Empire for control of the galaxy. One of the rebels was named Princess Leia. She had been given plans for the Empire's newest weapon, the Death Star. Now Leia was on her starship, that's her spaceship, heading home to Alderaan. But she was not alone. An Imperial ship was chasing her. And the Empire, with their Imperial ships, they're the bad guys. And in this story, the rebels are the good guys. It's not always like that. Okay, so here's the next part. Here's R2-D2 and 3CPO. On board Leia's ship were two droids, R2-D2 and C-3PO. C-3PO was worried. He did not like being attacked. "We're doomed," he said, as the starship shook. "There will be no escape for the princess this time." Not seeing the princess, those pictures. And C-3PO, the tall yellow one, he's a worrier. Of course, anybody would be if they were being attacked. So here's the next part. And that's Darth Vader, of course. Suddenly, a loud blast rocked the ship. It had been captured. As the droids watched, the starship's main door blasted open. Stormtroopers rushed through, swarming the ship. Those are the white guys who are the bad guys, the guys who wear white costumes. The stormtroopers fired their blasters at the rebels, and the rebels fired back. One by one, the rebels fell. Soon the stormtroopers were in full control of the ship. As the battle wound down, a mysterious figure emerged from the smoke. It was Darth Vader. There he is. Creepy when you can't see somebody's real face or hear their real voice. Okay, so there's R2-D2 and Princess Leia. In the commotion, R2-D2 slipped away. Noticing that R2-D2 was missing, C-3PO set out to find his friend. "R2-D2, where are you?" he called. Elsewhere on the ship, meaning somewhere else, Princess Leia looked at the plans for the Death Star. She knew she had to keep them safe. If the Empire got the plans back, the rebels wouldn't stand a chance. Just then, R2-D2 appeared. That gave Princess Leia an idea. Here's the next part. Princess Leia leaned over and began speaking to the droid. I don't know, somebody correct me. She was recording a message for someone who she hoped could help her in the Rebel Alliance. So R2-D2 is a droid. "I have placed information vital to the survival of the rebellion," that's the good guys, "into the memory systems of this R2 unit," she explained. When Princess Leia was done with her message, she inserted the plans for the Death Star into R2-D2. Then she told him where to go. Okay, here's the next part. Princess Leia was just finishing her instructions when C-3PO found R2-D2. At last, he said, "Where have you been?" C-3PO pointed back at the stormtroopers, and those are the white bad guys. "They're heading in this direction. What are we going to do?" But R2-D2 wasn't listening. He turned around and zipped off toward the escape pods. Princess Leia watched until she was sure R2-D2 was safe. Then, lifting her hood over her head, she crept into the shadows. There was still a chance she could get away too. She has not given up hope of escaping. Okay. So these guys are the stormtroopers, and you know that's Darth Vader. And Eric, I know you know all of this far better than I do, but for other grandchildren who may not know the story so well, I'm giving some guidance here. Meanwhile, Darth Vader was speaking to one of his commanders. "The Death Star plans are not in the main computer," the commander reported. That did not make Darth Vader happy. "Tear this ship apart until you found those plans," he ordered, "and bring me the passengers." The stormtroopers wasted no time. They had not been searching long before they spotted Princess Leia. She tried to escape, but she was not fast enough. The troopers brought the princess to Darth Vader. "I want to know what happened to the plans," he told her. Princess Leia refused to speak. Darth Vader ordered his commander to take her away. He would get the truth out of her somehow. Doesn't sound good. It does not sound good. Okay. So here is R2-D2 and the escape pod. But the plans and R2-D2 were about to leave the ship. They were inside an escape pod. What's an escape pod? It's like a lifeboat. It's a little spaceship that is attached to a really big spaceship, so that if there's an emergency and something's going to happen, bad is happening to you, or the big spaceship is about to blow up or something, that you can get in it and escape. So that's what an escape pod is. So a pod is a small little thing. A pod can be a little room or a little ship, any little structure that a person can fit in. But so they're in the escape pod. "You're not permitted in there," C-3PO told him. "It is restricted. You'll be deactivated for sure." Deactivated means turned off. "Secret mission?" C-3PO asked. "What plans?" "I'm not getting in there." Just then, another explosion rocked the ship. C-3PO hurried into the pod. "I'm going to regret this," he said. The door slammed and the escape pod rocketed off into space. So C-3PO and R2-D2 are now in this little lifeboat of an escape pod, flying away from the big ship that's like a city up there to escape the bad guys. Okay, and here's the next one. This is the one for the story we're in, and the next page starts a new story. A short while later, the pod landed on a desert planet named Tatooine. The plans were safe, but the droids' adventures were just beginning. What's a desert? A desert is a place that gets almost no rain and hardly anything grows, and it's just sand. It's mostly sand and some kind of dull-looking plants that don't need much water. So, like, there are no trees. It's all just a big sandy hot, and it's very hot in the desert, except when it's very cold. So that's what a desert is. It can be pretty. Some people like it. So I'll do one more. This is Star Wars: A New Hope. Destroy the Death Star. And that's this page now. For years, the rebellion had struggled against the evil, meaning very bad, Galactic Empire. Now, for the first time, the rebels had an advantage. An advantage means something good on their side, something that strengthens them. makes them stronger. They had discovered a weakness in the Empire's greatest weapon, the Death Star. They could use a good pilot like you, Luke Skywalker said to his friend Han Solo as the rebels prepared for their attack. Sorry, kid, Han said. The smuggler wasn't interested. He had more important things to do. So this is Luke, and that's Han. Okay, now the next pictures. Luke walked away disappointed, but he needed to keep his mind on the mission. At times like this, he missed his old teacher, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Luke climbed into the cockpit of his X-Wing while they loaded his astromech, droid R2-D2 into the ship. Luke was glad the little droid was his co-pilot. The two friends had been through a lot together. The fleet of X-Wings flew toward the space station. Look at the size of that thing, one of the pilots said. As they approached the massive Death Star, everyone started to get nervous. Luke heard a mysterious voice inside his head. Luke, the Force will be with you. Now, what is the Force? I don't think anybody really can say for sure, but to me, when they talk about the Force, they're talking about God, the one who made everything. That's just my opinion, but that's how I think of it. So there they are. Okay, and here's the next part. Or maybe the Force is the energy of being alive. Could be too. Soon the Death Star's cannons began to shoot at the X-Wings. Laser fire exploded all around Luke and his friends. But there was no time for hesitation. I'm going in, said Luke. Luke heard the voice again. Luke, trust your feelings. The voice seemed familiar, and it helped Luke focus. He dodged a laser fire and swooped toward the surface of the Death Star and the other X-Wings. Now, this X-Wing thing, I think what they're talking about is that these wings are in the shape of the letter X. Like if this part wasn't here, you could see that this looks like an X. Okay, here's the next part. But the X-Wings were not alone. A fleet of TIE fighters appeared behind them. What's a fleet? A fleet is a whole bunch of ships. Could be ships on the ocean. That's where it started, where the word was originally used. Or it could be airplanes, or it could be spaceships. Cars. It could be cars too. A fleet of TIE fighters appeared behind them. That was going to make things even more difficult, especially since Darth Vader himself was leading the enemy ships. The TIE fighters fired on the X-Wings. Luke's ship was shot. I'm hit, but not bad, Luke told the other pilots. R2, see what you can do back there. R2-D2 got to work fixing the damage. The little droid was both brave and smart. The next two pages. The first of the X-Wings entered the Death Star's trench. The lead pilot got close to the exhaust port, the one weakness of the giant space station. So an exhaust port would be a place where smoke comes out or some kind of chemicals that the engine is throwing off come out. The pilot fired, but he missed. Back at the rebel base, it's the good guys, where the good guys live, Princess Leia and C-3PO were worried about their friends, But they were also worried about the Death Star. If it got too close to the base, it would destroy them all. Destroy means tear it apart or ruin it, kill it, that kind of stuff. Okay, here's the next part. The second attack run of rebel ships dove into the canyon to take their shot, but they missed too. It was all up to Luke. He just had to dodge Darth Vader and the enemy TIE fighters on his tail. Luke tried to use the targeting computer to make the shot, but he heard the familiar voice in his head again. Use the Force, Luke. It was Obi-Wan. Luke shut off the computer and trusted himself. Right as he was about to take his shot, Darth Vader's TIE fighters appeared behind him. Darth Vader's lasers locked onto Luke's X-Wing. I have you now, Vader said triumphantly. But before Vader could fire, another ship swooped in and shot all the TIE fighters. It was Han Solo in the Millennium Falcon. He had returned just in time to save his friend. Yahoo! Han shouted with excitement. Then he added, You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home. Luke was so happy his friend had joined the fight after all. But everything still rested on Luke's shoulders. If he didn't make the shot, the rebels were doomed. Luke thought about what Obi-Wan had said. Luke closed his eyes and used the Force. He waited. Then when the moment was right, he fired. Wow, look at this picture. An explosion. Luke did it. The torpedoes flew into the exhaust port. Great shot, kid, Han Solo said. That was 1 in a million. The rebel ship sped away from the Death Star as fast as they could. Seconds later, the entire space station exploded in a giant burst of light. The Death Star had been destroyed. So they blew up the Death Star that belongs to the bad guys, the Empire. Okay, here's the last page on this story. As Luke and his friends flew to safety, he heard Obi-Wan's voice in his head one last time. Remember, the Force will be with you, always. Luke smiled to himself. He and his friends had defeated the Empire and rescued the rebels, and soon they would save the entire galaxy. So what's a galaxy? Well, when you think about how we have our sun and several planets circle around it, orbit around it, that's called the solar system. A galaxy is a whole bunch of those, a lot of solar systems, like more than we can imagine, billions. So billions of solar systems make a galaxy. That's what a galaxy is. So, okay, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.